realm of enlightenment and transformation.
Welcome to Chief Speaks.
All music performed and produced by Yuya.
Enlightenment and transformation. Enlightenment comes from allowing yourself to journey through the dark shadows of death, the primordial abyss of wisdom's waters. For it is the treasures and mysteries that lie wait in the dark that transform us and propel us to a new enlightened state. One should neither aspire to live in the light nor the dark, but should journey between the two in order to evolve the overall reality into a self-actualized creation. Knowledge is your light as wisdom is your darkness. The bold interplay of the two in your life leads you to an enlightened understanding of yourself and the universe you've created. Male is your enlightenment. Female is your transformation. Child is your evolution. Woman, accept the light into your darkness so it may enlighten you. Man, bring your light boldly into the darkness so that it may transform you. Enlightenment and transformation.
I love you so much because you just don't know what you've just done for me. Thank you so much.
Wow. This is like the best call I've had in ages on BTR.
So this show was meant for me to be able to hear today, and I'm so thankful.
That's his home.
Therefore, now a new pathway has now been cut in order to get to the Almighty, where there may not have been one. So the communication with them, if they have enough power and strength to talk to us, the communication will be very clear.
That's one of the reasons I don't get into the current events thing too much, because it starts to become a perpetual alarm clock that we just keep hitting snooze on. I speak to the ascended masters, quote unquote. I talk about spiritual stuff, but I also speak about some very practical, we can do today things.
Be as natural as you can be with your spiritual. You can't always go by your feelings, because your feelings are corrupted. Your feelings are just as corrupted as everything else, your chakras and everything else. You got to know what's beyond you, and that's why we have elders. We can't do everything. You can't get everything out of books or weekend certification. You can have the most powerful, ancient, oldest, most, as far as you know, truthful tradition in your hands. And if you still have a dirty spirit, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to learn anything. You're not actually going to grow. I try to teach in a way where I make myself obsolete. That's always been my goal, to make myself obsolete.
I really wanted to, kind of big you up. I think you're awesome.
There's a lot of elders out here right now that want to know what's going on. They're not getting on Twitter and stuff like that, but they want to be up on the new stuff. Sit down and have some conversations with them. It's not always about hearing their story. It's also about being news reporters for them and letting them know, like, yeah, this is what's happening right now. They may tell you something about what happened in Charleston that you couldn't even. Your spirituality has to create sane spiritual family. Okay, and that family exists first inside of you. You have to express the different expressions of that rainbow coalition of spirits inside of you first. Okay, don't let communities hijack that rainbow. See, the problem is when we come into the conscious community, the dudes are doing the same thing that the women are doing.
I just want to say that I really enjoy your show every Sunday, and my friend and I call it going to church. When we call in, we'll be like, you going to church? And I'm like, where have y'all been at?
God cannot go against its own truth. So anytime you have an inkling that God is going against its own truth, then God is no longer behaving as God. So therefore, the spiritual community doesn't recognize God. You dig where I'm coming from? Or can we have a new thought? Can we step outside of the books for a second and have a new conversation about hair weaves and wigs? Can we have a new conversation about homosexuality? Can we have a new conversation about vegan eating? We doing right. It's a good day for exorcism.
347-945-7680. Call in and let's build. Hey. Greetings and welcome all to another segment of Chief Speaks on enlightenment and transformation. I would like to say that we are broadcasting on high frequency radio as well as enlightenment and transformation. But sadly, this Sunday our enlightenment and our high frequency brothers are having some tech issues on their side with connecting the shows. So, we will that we get that resolved soon. All right. So maybe we'll just bring them in a little bit later. But, we're still marching on. We're still moving forward. And, like I said, hopefully all those things will be worked out pretty soon. But anyway, you are listening to Chief Yuya, and this is Chief Speaks. And in fact, this is the last Chief Speaks for the Roman financial year of 2015. And I look forward to what we'll be doing in the coming seasons, because as I've mentioned and hinted and, dropped little subtle darts, things will be changing very soon with these shows and just with the entire format. And I know I did put a poll out there and asked people if how they would like things to, remain. And I didn't get a huge response. Well, I got a response. I got emails, I got phone calls, I got a couple comments on videos, but not enough to make me want to change my direction. I will say that. But I want to thank everyone for who did take the time to reach out and share, what you felt about the current format, and if you wanted things to be changed or wanted things to be say the same, whatever, definitely thank you for reaching out and sharing that with us all. But if you know anybody at high frequency side, just let them know, because it seems every time there's a tech issue and we're not around, immediately people say, "Oh, there's no more Chief Speaks," and I get these emails. So there'll be Chief Speaks. I think in the coming season, I'll probably be renaming the show, extracting my name out of it. I don't necessarily like to be the center of things, because what happens is, if I'm unable to make it one Sunday, if I have something more pressing, then it's not Chief Speaks. If someone has to fill in and continue forward what we're doing here. So a lot of times it's not good to make yourself the centerpiece of what it is that you're doing. But so I wanted to give a very quick recap, because it's not really my thing. Very recap on last strong, some of the things that I covered in particular, and how it relates to what we're speaking about now. And just real quick, Thursday, Thunderground Thursday, and Foundational Friday, which I will remind you all again, because we've had some issues with that in terms of people not knowing where to find the shows and calling in the Blog Talk radio line and thinking that there were no shows because they called in the Blog Talk and didn't find them. Those particular segments are airing exclusively on YouTube at this point. So the only show that you'll call in and catch us at is Chief Speaks. Or we'll say the Sunday 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific show, because we may end up changing the name around a little bit. So that's the only segment that you'll call in, and you can speak live and we can interact and things like that. Of course, you can interact with the YouTube videos and things like that, but there's a different way to do that. But okay, so Thursday we talked about the flag, right? Setting your standards, and as a good brother commented on the YouTube video, I really appreciated his comment, and he said, he came from a military background, and he said, we call it the coat of arms, but it's pretty much the same thing. And I also spoke about the family crest, and that standard being, or that flag being the overarching and the overhanging pedagogy and doctrine that's going to imbue all of the work that you do going forward. So when you have that flag, the challenge is making sure that whatever flag is being utilized, that it's a flag that you yourself have planted. Okay, that's the challenge. Okay, so a lot of times when we're going through certain things and we're trying to make different situations pop in our lives, and we're finding that we're getting consistent results, right? And what I mean by consistent results, we're getting consistently ineffective results. You know, we're trying different things. Sometimes we don't realize it's because we have an overarching paradigm that just doesn't work with what we're doing. I'll give you an example. Some years back, I was offered a pastoralship position at a Episcopal church, right? Imagine that. And I mean, not teaching out of the Bible, teaching the same way I teach you guys here on Sundays and Thursdays and Fridays and the classes and everything like that. But what happened was that basically, because I came into an environment, I did a speech and a lecture, and they liked it so much that they actually offered me the entire church. It was a huge church too. And they said, and I said, well, listen, I'm not doing, I'm not going to speak out of the Bible, and I definitely can't sit in here and speak with all these crosses all over my face, so all of that would have to come down, if we were going to do this. And I wasn't totally interested, but what I was really trying to do was discourage them from the thought. Let them know, like, well, maybe you're not as aware of who it is, who it is you're talking to. This, you may want to rethink this idea. This may not, work out in your favor. And they didn't care. They were like, no, this is some amazing information, and we still want to blah, 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 right? So what I did was I spoke to another individual who was pastoring one of their other branches, and he was at the time kind of infusing African thought into whatever it is that he's doing, whatever it is that they're doing, right? So I said, well, how do you resolve the two? And he said, well, I really kind of can't. So I listened to a couple of his sermons, and one of the things that I noticed was that after every sermon, he would speak about Ifa, he would speak about many different thoughts. Oh, I'm sorry, everyone. I think we have a little issue here on Blog Talk. As well, big surprise, right? Yeah, sorry for the noise. Sure. I was wondering why we were losing callers on Blog Talk. I guess because there's no sound coming through on Blog Talk right now. So we're going to try to fix that really quick. All right. But so you may hear some phone action in the background. Please, just excuse that. We're trying to get back up on Blog Talk. But anyway, so I had asked him about that, and I said, well, how is it that you're resolving the two things together? And he was like, he shared some of his messages with me. So one of the things that I noticed in his messages that kind of struck me a certain way, I noticed that no matter what he would speak about, in terms of the deliverance of his message and the deliverance of what he was saying, no matter how African the thought was and how much he came out of different scrolls, he would always wrap everything up, what he was saying, with the Bible. So he'd say what he'd have to say, and then he'd say, because it's just like what you find in the Bible. So what I found there was that no matter how progressive the thought was, no matter how indigenous even the thought was, ultimately, this was Bible teaching. It was the same old Christianity. And why? Because that's the flag that was planted. Okay, so for me, it became an important message at that point. And please excuse all this Blog Talk, darling. Blog Talk, most of the time, is just a headache. It's just a headache. So right now, just to give you some background, okay, we'll let the English lady talk. So just give you some background. We were connected to Blog Talk. Somehow it kicked us off of Blog Talk, and then what happened after that was I couldn't get back into it. Typical Blog Talk action. And we also can't get into high frequency radio. Typical Blog Talk action. It was funny, they have a big sign when you log in on the back end right now where it says that our support will be closed December 24th and 25th and won't be back to Monday. So yeah. But that's why we broadcast on YouTube at the same time. And even usually when we're broadcasting, I'm also recording it on the side. So, I have redundant systems just in case something doesn't work. You can't rely on other people to be the total medium and channel for what it is that you do. So yeah, so that overarching flag became an important thing. And sometimes we don't realize this. The enemy who comes against you, they plant their flag, right? And if they conquer you, then the rules of engagement say that it's okay for them to knock over your flag and put their flag there. So sometimes we don't realize that certain battles we lost before we even knew how to conceptualize the idea of oppression or conceptualize the idea of a sick society. We already lost certain battles. So there's a different flag already planted on top of our crown. There's a different paradigm and matrix already planted on top of us. So how would we know if that's the case? Well, have you ever planted your own flag? Have you ever said that this is my codex? This is my compendium of thoughts, ideas, and philosophies. It's a system that I use to guide my life, or to determine what my culture will be, or to determine how I will navigate and move around certain obstacles and things in my life. If you've not created that for yourself, then somebody's flag is on top of your head. Meaning somebody's standard is already on top of your head. Okay, so that was one of the things that we covered Thursday, just, the planting of the flag, the planting of the standard. And like I've said many other times, maybe you guys haven't heard it so much, but I used to always tell my rites of passage students, if you don't pick a culture will be chosen for you. So regardless if you're aware of it or not, those paradigms are placed on top of you because there's a continuing constant battle for your mind. Ultimately, that's what the bulk of all of this is about. It's about your mind, because that's where the creation material is. The universe is primarily made up of the substance of the mental, or of the mind, where we're dealing with the law of mentalism. Then if I can recapture and claim the mind, then I can own the universe. I can recapture and reclaim the universe. Maybe not even reclaim, let's say claim the universe. So the bulk of the battle is in fact for your mind, right? So that was the whole idea of dealing with that flag standard. And of course, Friday, we went into just the full moon vibration of the Cancerian crab. Of course, we touched upon Kepra, because you can't speak about the Cancer crab without touching upon Kepra. It would just be disrespectful, but we spoke about the crab and the reality of that true statement of, when we speak about the mentality, the crab in the barrel mentality, and where that really comes from, and if it's really based on that being the true and predetermined nature of a crab, or if that be the artificial contrived nature of a crab based on an artificial or forced environment. And we determined that when you put a crab inside of a barrel, inside of a vacuum of sorts, then a fierce competition will ensue, where each one will try to climb over the other. So it's not so much, people think that the crab in the barrel piece is, one crab tries to get out, the other crab pulls them down. It's not that. What the other crabs are trying to do, they're trying to use that crab to climb over, to get out themselves. And in effect, no one gets out, because everyone is using and manipulating each other. Now, of course, obviously, we can apply that to it. I mean, it's a pretty easy one. We could apply that to a lot of different things. But like I mentioned, when you place a crab in its natural environment, meaning the sea or the ocean or river or lake, they actually are communitarian based. They work together. They build structures together. They build forts together, things like that. Hiding holes, they'll carve together. And sometimes competition will ensue, but it's not to the degree where they're constantly sabotaging each other's ambitions towards getting free and getting out of the bucket or getting out of the barrel. All right, so that was something that we spoke about this Friday. And this Sunday, I know normally coming to the end of the financial year, I give you all the financial year reading. And I may still do that. I'm not going to do it this Sunday, even though this is the last Chief Speaks. You would think I would do it now, right? We're going to do something a little different. I just want to really speak about the totem vibration and energy that's present for this coming season. And by season, I want you to understand I don't just mean the winter or the fall or the spring. A season is just a new dispensation. So when we come into 2016, for many, it marks a new season. Okay, it marks a new era. Some people take that really serious. 2000, and they do the numerology on it. That's the 9 number. You got the 2 and the 1. That's the 3 plus the, the 6. That's 9, and 9 represents the completion. They might go into a whole thing. I'm not, whatever, because then I got to do that with 2017, every number at the end of the day has a divine quality to it. I mean, we can make any number special. Now, if we can relate it to things that are going on right now, or make it relate, because each number itself is a deity, just like each letter is a deity. Seriously. I'm not saying that metaphorically, but just like you look at Orisha and you look at the colors of the Orisha, or you look at different, or just gods or different angels, these other high arcing symbols like numbers and names are things that you should really pay attention to. Even the shapes of them, they're shaped certain ways for a reason. And they tell their own story. They're packed with loads upon loads of information. The numbers are almost like nucleus, cell nucleus. They have that infinite capacity for information. How much information can a nucleus carry? Well, we haven't been able to figure it out yet, so we consider it just to be infinite. A number is like that. How much information can a number 1 carry? It's really infinite. It could tell so many different stories. It serves so many different purposes in terms of a symbol. Just the number 1 before you even start getting to the other ones. So anyway, so that's why I'm not going to get into all the number breakdowns and all that. I'll leave that for the numerologists and the astrologists. But I wanted to just speak about, I did some readings on the coming financial year for the people I work with, the Osiris Life people, and I'll be sharing some of that with a lot of them. But and I also did it for ANU, for our own ministry, and what we're doing and how to really move and navigate for the coming financial year. And I'll just share one of the very strong totems that came forth. It's the totem of the hunter. This year will be the year for the hunters. Okay, and taking on that vibration, I know may be a little awkward and thorny for a lot of you listeners, becoming that hunter, becoming that individual who has the ability to combine the force of water, the force of herbs, and the force of the hunt all in one place. Because that's really what the hunter represents. The hunter is not just the person who goes out with the bow and arrow and kills stuff. Hunters in any mythological form, or even in natural and quote unquote real form, the hunters are always high herbalists. And anytime you're dealing with high herbology, then you're dealing with high magic and mysticism. They're related. One can't get away from the other. But that symbol and the vibration of the hunter is going to be ruling this 2016 financial year. And I want to share a little bit of what that may mean for some of you, and what that may mean just as a collective thought, right? And to elucidate the idea, I'm gonna come a little bit out of the Yoruba for you. And I know a lot of you who listen, some of you are familiar with the Yoruba, and some of you are not as versed, and don't feel bad about that. I mean, it's a huge tradition. It's Yoruba is so complicated in the sense that there's just so much to it. That there's just so much to the actual tradition. There's so much to the language. It's not a simple 1-2 thing. That's why it always kind of amuses me when I hear people call me and they say, listen, I read your book, and I've been on this path for about a year now, and I know all about the Orisha, and I know about Ifa. I've been studying that. And I don't really say anything, but it always kind of amuses me, because it's like, no, there's no way you know all about that. It's like saying, I mean, you could study the number 1 for a year and still not know all about the number 1. You could study, like I spoke to someone recently who's an Oshun energy, and they were sharing with me, like, they basically not necessarily had Oshun mastered, but they had the understanding down pat. As far as, like, she was like, I know the dances, I know the songs, and I said, okay, cool, that's awesome. So I said, what's water? She's like, huh? I said, well, what's water? I said, because Oshun represents fresh water, so you got Oshun so down pat. You've been doing this for years, and I think she's been in it for about 7 years now. I said, so what's water? And she couldn't give a direct answer. She didn't actually know what water was. She didn't even give me H2O. She didn't even say that. She's just like, well, water is what is in our body. Water is what we need for life. And okay, I got all that. But what exactly is this substance that we call water? And considering that you've devoted, 7 years of your existence to this energy that is a patron of that element, I would think that you would at least learn what the element is before you'd say that you got this down pat. You see? So, like I said, you could take years just studying one element. And the truth is, if you understand how fractals work and core vibrational amplification, then you realize that you could study one thing and learn many other things. It is great. It is fun to study a lot of different things and get a lot of different perspectives. But the truth is, you could just study numbers, and your study of numbers can bring you to a place where you can unlock life's mysteries. You can just study colors. You can just study nature. Or you could just study water. Each Orisha, remember, has a heaven and hell of its own. All deities have a heaven and hell. All angelic forces have a heaven and hell. I know we want to look at them like it's all good all the time, but not always. Not always. Depending on how you approach the energy, it can be all good, and sometimes it may not be so great. But in any event, there's a vibration that I wanted to deal with. And like I said, we have this totem and this idea of the hunter, right? And our Yoruba system, I mean, a lot of you guys know about Ogun, and you guys know about Shango, because these are our major hunter figures, right? You have Ogun and you have Shango. But there's another one that sometimes we don't speak of as often, who is a major hunter figure by the name of Arinle. And Arinle is, people don't speak about him too much. And I think because here, sometimes we approach our Orisha studies from a very macro perspective. So you deal with the 7. I know Oshun, I know Obatala, I know Ogun, I know Shango, I know what someone say Elegba, and it pretty much a lot of times it will end right there. But remember, there's thousands of energies. It's not just 7, there's not just 401, there's thousands of them. Okay, so with that, we're going to deal with that energy for a minute, right? Because the Renle is a very interesting hunter energy, and that's the vibration of the archetype for this season. It's not necessarily the hot hunter like Ogun or like Shango. Those are your fiery hunters. It's the cool hunter, the hunter who sits in water, You know, the hunter who waits in the water, in the cool space, and then attacks from there. Okay, that's the vibration and the energy of Erinle. Now, I'm going to connect you to something real quick that some of you may connect to. Some of you say, well, I don't know about that. It doesn't relate, but it does relate. When you look at the name Erinle, right? E-R-I-N-L-E is how we spell the name, by the way. Of course, you'll see the name Erin in there, E-R-I-N. And I know probably a lot of you listening don't have the name Erin, but you may know of an Erin, okay? And in fact, of course, Erin is a name that when we trace it back, a lot of times it'll take us to Ireland. In Ireland, that's a very mystical space. Ireland, you know, as soon as you start talking about Ireland, just immediately related to indigenous studies, because it gets that deep there. Okay. So you have Erin, which is kind of a shortened form of Ireland, by the way, and name. Okay. Which is another form for Irie or Ere. Ireland also is Osiris or Irish Osiris. You know, we can get deep on the island. Maybe I'll do a show on Ireland one day. Just a name by itself, it gives you a lot of metaphysical clues just in the name. But anyway, so you have this name of Erin, right? And Erin represents, even in name form, like not only the hunter, but Erin represents, you know, the high and lofty mountainous space. So it's kind of the one who sees things, the one who watches. It's that aspect of hunting, you know, the hunter when they sit in a tree all day, just kind of scoping and waiting for that prey to walk by. It's that vibration, okay? But then we also have the name of Aaron, right? Which is A-A-R-O-N, right? A-A-R-O-N, Aaron. Some of you may know someone named Aaron, or you may not. But I'm sure, especially if you live in the West, you've heard the name before, at least. You know, so we have Erinle, we have Aaron, we have Erin. And of course, they all share a very similar vibration. In fact, you have the term Babawa Mbe Ni Ishelea Omi, right? What do we say in Yoruba? Babawa Mbe or Mbe Ni Ishele Omi. And that means like Babawa, right? Which is Y is like R, but Baba is father. Many of you know Baba. And Ni Ishele Omi means the one who lives underwater, or the one who lives below the water's surface. Okay, so again, we may say, well, that sounds like Olokun, or that sounds like Ajay Saluga. But no, it's actually the hunter who lives under the water, who springs out of the water, right? So let's take it to back to Aaron again, A-A-R-O-N, and that understanding, okay? And we have the understanding of Aaron, A-A-R-O-N, which again is a common name that many of you may be familiar with. And that's actually a Kemetic name. Believe it or not, that's a Kemetic name. You know, it's funny because I was having a conversation with my youth the other day, and we were talking about names. And we were talking about white names versus black names, because they know I have this thing about the supposed black urban African American names, and I like them. You know, the Taquandas, Shaquishas, you know, Chevrons, the dyslexia. You know, people just make up stuff. You know, alopecia. That's my daughter, alopecia. You know, names like that. But I like them because they're of a new invention. You know, and when you hear them, you definitely know where the person is from. Okay, so I don't, you know, I'm not one who thinks that all of your names need to be very old. But we were having a discussion about, you know, white names versus black names, and they were trying to argue me down that the name Brittany is a is a black name. That's a black girl's name, Brittany. And I was trying to explain to them that's a new invention. Typically, years ago, young black girls were not named Brittany. So they just cannot see it just because of where things are. So Aaron is another one. So when I tell you that Aaron, AARN, which you don't find a lot of melanin dominant men with that name, it's actually a Kemetic name. So Aaron, coming from Aru, which is one of the terms for it's one of the older forms of Heru. Aru means like heaven. It was like a duat form, earlier duat form. But you had Aru and you had Aharu, right? And Aharu represented the warrior king, or more so the warrior lion. Even if you look at it in Medu form, in Medu Netir, you see a symbol of like a warrior staff and then a symbol of a lion laying down. So Aharu or Aru represented again the warrior, but it was the warrior, that the high strength warrior, or the exalted warrior. Okay, so again, when we take that back to again Aaron, ERIN, from the Irish, remember, all this stuff is connected. You can't say Kemetic without saying Irish. It's like you can't say Irish without saying Iris, coming from Osiris, the eye. And even Ireland is known as the Green Land. I think actually that's what Ireland kind of means. It means it also means green water. Now we know who the green skin deity was, right? So anyway, so you have this idea of this hunter again. We'll go back to that, to this hunter vibration when we're dealing with Aaron or Erinle. Taking us back to the Yoruba. So now we have 3 different correlations. Someone had emailed in recently. Excuse me, let me take a drink real quick. Someone had emailed in recently and asked the question, is there any show specifically that can teach me how to relate the different deities to each other? More specifically, like the Kemetic deity. I think it was just correlations. And it was kind of a hard question to answer because all of the shows, there's never one show where I'm just saying, because this is not a religious show, there's never one segment or anything where we're just talking about one space to pull in energy from. It just doesn't work that way. So it was kind of a hard question to answer. It was like, you just need to listen to all of them. Obviously, grasping the root of divine power. In the back where I listed different Orisha, it shows you the Nordic and the Greek and different other systems, the Voodoo and even Apollo connections with those particular energies. But every show I do, I'm going to make those correlations. So, so now we have these 3 correlations present for us. We have, and interesting enough, you find that ultimately they all triangle and point back at Kemet anyway, Nile Valley civilization, which is where the Yoruba migrated out of anyway. But you have Aharu or Aru, which is the Kemetic form of Aaron. Again, reminding you that Aaron is actually a Kemetic name. Some will tell you that it's Hebraic, but that's a newer form. And you had Aaron, of course, in Hebrew, and Aaron not only meant warrior, but Aaron in Hebrew more connects to strength, and it connects to mountain. Okay, so it's like so when they're talking about mountain, it's not just saying that it's steadfast and unmovable. It's speaking about its exaltation, its elevation of that vibration. So you had the Hebraic Aaron, you had the Kemetic Aru, and then you had the Yoruba Erinle, you had the Irish or the Gaelic Aaron, right? And then we just got the plain old Aaron that we all may know and be familiar with, right? But ultimately, you're dealing with the warrior lion who stands exalted, like a mountain lion or a warrior mountain lion, right? The vibration that we're dealing with now, right? And the connection to that vibration, I have to bring up another energy that's going to be real strong in 2016, and that's the energy that we call OK, OKE, okay? And OK, taking you again to maybe some of the more obscure Orisha that sadly people don't talk about as much. There's a lot of information. See, I know a lot of times we study Kemet because it's very exotic and it's very clean. You know, Kemet for us, for many people, is like very sterilized. You don't see like all that rough African stuff. You know, you don't read a lot of stories about the animal sacrifices and things like that. And people will tell you, oh, there were no animal sacrifices in Kemet. Okay, another show, another time. So, but the beauty of Kemet is that there's a lot of translated literature, and the itemization was incredible. You know, and what I mean by the itemization of forces and energies is that everything was broken down. We got an energy for moist earth. We got an energy for dry earth. We got an energy for the earth for when the moon starts to pull the water up from it during the full moon. And you have different archetypes related to each one. So the itemization was beautiful because it covered everything. But you also have the same thing in Yoruba culture. But the problem is, because a lot of times people don't really study it, or they try to get everything that they want off of books or out of the internet, then there's only but so much you can cover on the internet or in the book. So there's a lot of different Orisha that people don't even speak about that can give you a lot of wisdom. They can give you a lot of information about how things move. So for instance, we had the energy of OK. Okay, and OK is a vibration that's kind of similar to, almost in some senses, to Obatala, but OK is considered a mountainous energy, or in fact, OK is the mountain. Okay, and it was said that with OK, when you're dealing with that vibration, OK was born with a call. And if any of you guys know what the call is, that's when a baby is born and it has the amniotic sac, and the amniotic sac is unbroken. Okay, and which represents a special thing. I've known a couple of people who were born with that call, you know, that clear translucent sac over them, which is said it's a high spiritual thing. People who were born like that are very special. Okay, and I know one sister in particular. Matter of fact, the nurse in the hospital, one of the nurses in the hospital, stole her call when she was born. It was a little incident behind that years ago. Well, obviously many years ago, but she was born with that, and she never knew what it meant. She grew up a Christian, and she shared it with me one day, and was like, you know, I heard you talking about that, and I was born with that, and I knew it was something to it, but I don't know what it is. And actually, her and her best friend were born with the call, which I thought was always very interesting. I said, you see how your spirit will orchestrate you to find certain people that you're supposed to find in your life. And her best friend was like a sister to her, you know, more so than even her own blood sisters. So, and they were both born with the call, you know. So anyway, so we have the vibration of OK. And OK representing, again, the mountain. And in this form, OK is like the, you know, because Obatala as an energy, Obatala doesn't really necessarily have any earthly representations, but we always relate Obatala to the mountain because of conviction and because of the coolness of Obatala. Like, I'm not budging, I'm doing what I do, I'm strong. And also it's the exaltation. I live high above all. Okay, so OK is actually the actual stone or the actual rock face of Obatala. Okay, and again representing character that is unswayed by the changing of spirits and is unswayed by opposition. You know, again representing the wind. Okay, and OK is also a fighting, by the way. Okay, is a fighter. Now, being born with that call for OK represents a connection with the Egungun, or the ancestral, for some of you will say the ancestral churches, or like we say the ancestral cult, the Egungun cult. And as soon as you hear that word cult, don't flip. Cult is just the root word of culture. If you don't have a problem with culture, or you don't have a problem with cultivation, then trust me, you should have no problem with cult. There's nothing wrong with a cult. I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay, it's just that because of what some people do in terms of their desire to create this dictatorships and these closed vacuum communities, which is not necessarily problematic either, but when you let certain people into those type of situations and give them absolute power, then it becomes a very ugly thing. Okay, and it gets that cult stamp put on top of it. But sometimes your family is a cult. I've met, especially in the Caribbean, families are very clannish, and there's a lot of times it's a cult mentality there. You have certain religions here who have open door policies, but it's still very cultish, but to have a cult is just to cultivate a certain vibration, to cultivate a certain mind, to cultivate a certain energy. So, in Yoruba land, we have the ancestral cult, the Egungun cult, and that's the cult or the group that services ancestors to make sure that they're okay. To make sure that they're given everything that they're needed. And children who are born with that call on them, and call is spelled C-A-U-L, by the way. I'm a little congested this morning, so I may be pronouncing things that may sound a little funny. So I'll spell it out, C-A-U-L, call. And that call represents immediate. As soon as you see that, you don't even have to get the reading. That's an individual who's connected to the Egungun. They're supposed to be working with the Egungun call. As soon as you see that. Okay. So anyway, you have this vibration of, again, the hunter. You have this vibration of Aaron or Erinle. You have this vibration of Okay, which represents the steadfastness of character. And in 2016, how do we cultivate and dive into the steadfastness of our own character? How do we hold on? How do we keep from being broken? How do we keep from breaking? We remove ourselves and exalt ourselves above the low-lying winds of constant change and confusion. See, the warrior lion or the mountain lion, it does what? It climbs high into the mountains, and then it overlooks and oversees what it wants to do. It plans and it plots more. Okay, now in 2015, Ifa had advised that we not start anything new. We start no new adventures. They wouldn't work out. They were going to fail anyway. It was also, and one of the reasons that you see that, if you notice, and I shared it, came up through a lot of different things that were happening, not only in my life, but in the lives of a lot of people I work with. Let's say I'd say around August, September on down of 2015, there was a lot of purging that was taking place. A lot of things were being extracted out of people's environments. I was talking to a lot of different clients, and they were like, yeah, I've been married for 20 years and we're getting a divorce. Just lost my house, but I feel okay about it. Just changed jobs, this, that. A lot of things being removed out of the cipher, and out of their circumference of being that just didn't need to be there anymore. A lot of people who just don't need to be there, hanger-ons, parasites who were there just for their own personal agenda, but not necessarily loyal to the people, who don't even have a sense of that. So that was a common thing that was going on, that purging, right? So if you relate that to what I told you in the beginning, you do not start anything new. The reason, because you're too heavy. You're too heavy. So 2015 was a year of lightening up, getting things off you and away from you that no longer needed to be there. 2016 is a year now of exaltation. Finally rising up to that space where you're not so concerned with petty human affairs. Again, we have Erinle, who lives under the surface of the water, right? And then you have Aaron, who represents the high exalted warrior, who lives on the mountain, represents high strength, who's not swayed by character. Now, what are the two things that you have present, whether someone is beneath the water or someone is high in the mountains? They're not affected and not involved and not even a target for the things that are occurring on the earth's surface. I'm sure many of you have been in water before, like have gone swimming, whether it be in a pool or a lake or the ocean. That feeling you get when you go underwater Especially, let's say those of you who grew up in urban areas, or maybe not even an urban area, but you know, you have the crowded pools. You know, the pools that you can't swim in, but you could just kind of sit in because there's just so many people in them. You know, you ever been in those environments, and you know what it feels like when you may have like 100 people in the pool and you just go underwater for a moment and close your eyes. And of course, you open your eyes, you're gonna see his legs and urine dripping out. But you know, if you just close your eyes and you're underneath the water, you notice how it just feels like you're just not a part of the noise and the madness. And it's not until you pop back up and you say, wow, it's really loud in here. I didn't notice how loud it was until I went under. You see? And it's the same thing when you experience that mountain reality. You go high up in the mountains. You ever notice whenever you go high in the mountains and you look down, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what you're dealing with, when you go there, it just seems insignificant. It seems like in the greater scheme of things, you say, man, I'm down there on the earth. I got these bill collectors calling me. My children are acting up. You know, I'm getting hurt left and right by the people who say that they want to be in my life. You know, my car is making a new noise every other day. But up here, it just seems like that's not the wholeness and the fullness of my existence. That's not all that I'm supposed to be concerned with. That's not all that I'm supposed to be. There's so much more right now. There's so much more to this planet that I was supposed to be looking at and enjoying. And I got mixed up in what's going on in the valley. And you got to understand, when you're dealing with valleys, I know we always look at valleys like the most beautiful place to live. Oh, look at a beautiful valley. And there is a sense of that too, but always understand that energy falls into the valley, right? If you look at most neighborhoods, where do the more prosperous people typically live? They don't live in the valley. They live on the hills overlooking the valley, because they know that energy comes down in that valley and it just settles and it has nowhere to go. It has no drainage points, you see. And that's where all the madness and the craziness is, in the valley. Any city you go to, you got a fourth ward, right? Now we know what fourth ward is. The fourth ward is always where fourth ward is always where it floods. Look on any news channel and you can say, we had flooding in the fourth ward of such and such. Of course, it's where the black people live, where the fourth ward is. You know, but you'll find that the fourth ward, the reason it always floods because it's in some form of a valley. So in this season, and season, I'm meaning this dispensation, we're coming into 2016, you're getting out of the valley. You're getting away from all the individuals and all the situations and all the circumstances that keep you engaged in petty humanistic affairs that have nothing to do with the greater picture that you're supposed to see when either you go into that water space and you close your eyes and you say, wow, see this piece right here? This is me. This is my thing right here. Or you go into the mountain and you get that piece. See, it's the duality of the hunter that we appreciate so much. You know, we really find that duality present when we look at the energy of Shango, right? Because Shango really represents duality in so many senses, that red and white, but also because a lot of Shango, or most of Shango's power comes from his mouth. It comes from the tongue. And he can lie with his tongue or he can tell the truth with his tongue. Either one is up to him. You know, again, there's no good and bad. So he can live in the world of lies, which is a dimension. That's a realm. Or he can live in the world of truth, which is another realm. You see, so you see that hunter is always able to express that supreme duality. Like, I'm going to go hunt, I'm going to kill something so that my family can live. You see the duality? I killed this animal, but then I thanked it and prayed over it, you know, before I began to butcher it, or I pulled my arrow out. There's a distinct duality there. So we find that duality even in enjoying the mountain, or the rock face, or the high elevation, the high exaltation, while at the same time enjoying the low depths of the water, which is our meditative aspects, which take us back to our source. Okay, but then when we go into those high mountains is when we get our higher circumventional perspective, where we can really circumvent a lot of the things that are going on with us currently and get a perspective based on now circumventing the nonsense, circumventing the madness. How much madness do you have? And you guys know, people call in, and they call in with their madness. Oh, by the way, calling number again, 347-945-7680. I know I haven't said it in a while. And normally I would give you the high frequency number as well, but like I said, we have some tech issues over there today, so we were unable to, so far, maybe we still be able to bring them in, we'll see what happens. But we were unable to get connected with high frequency, but it's okay. Good thing that we say both networks, because high frequency people always know how to find us over here or to get on YouTube or whatever if there's a problem. But again, it's 347-945-7680. Just hit the number 1. 347-945-7680. Hit the number 1. But so that's your energy and your vibration that we're dealing with for this year. It's that hunter. Okay, that's and you're gonna see more of that. Now, of course, if you're looking, for those of you in the zodiac, Sagittarius, right? That's an easy go-to. But Aries also has a hunter vibration. Just because a lot of times we look at Aries as just like the ram, sometimes we don't realize that. I think we have a problem. All right, excuse me 1 second. We had a little problem with Blog Talk. We dropped out for a second. We're going to come right back in with Blog Talk. So anyway, so I'm going to keep going, and then Blog Talk will pick back up. So like I was saying that, all right. You see, Blog Talk is having a good old time this Sunday. But yeah, just because, like I said, Aries also represents that hunter vibration. A lot of times we don't connect Aries to this because we say, oh, it's the ram, it's an animalistic form. But Aries is the hunter, and more specifically, the mountain is hunter. Why? Because it's the ram. Where's the ram? In the mountains. So the mountains is your power space. In this season, high elevations is your power space. We're going to get into more of that. I'm going to speak about it some more. I'm going to take some callers though. All right, because I know we're at the hour now, and a lot of times if I don't usually take the callers at least by 12, I don't get everybody. I usually don't even get half of the people. But coming soon, I'll make my insights. They'll be shorter. All right, so I'm going to start with 919 area code. 919, you're on Chief Speaks. I'm good, brother. How you doing this morning?
I'm with my father.
All right. That's peace.
And I asked you a question the other week about my regeneration process I'm getting ready to do, and you said use a quart of milk.
Okay.
My question specifically is, I was thinking, is it all right to use, whether it be almond, rice, goat, or cow, which is, would have more of an effect on the influence, or is it just my thinking?
It's your thinking, because each one has a different effect. I like to use goat milk because goat milk is real powerful, but it depends on what you're using it for. Yeah. It depends. You go with your feeling. You may think it's disgusting to use goat milk, So, you got to go with each one has its own vibration, and what you're looking to regenerate with. Always look at the ingredients, in the sense that, okay, well, what do almonds do? What are almonds good for? You may say, I'm gonna use rice milk. Well, what is rice good for? Do I have an aversion to rice? Because whatever something does in the physical, it's gonna have a spiritual property of similar.
Right. Okay. And I was going to pick up a quart of goat's milk,
so you on it?
I just wanted to be sure.
All right. Beautiful.
I'm on it.
Yeah, you on it then. All right. Awesome, my brother. All right, Lafayette, my brother. Odabo. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, and everyone, there's a Yoruba word I want you guys to learn. Okay, I'm glad the brother said Lafayette. It just made me remember Dara. Dara. D-A-R-A. Sometimes you hear Odara, but Dara, okay? It's a word I want you to know. It means beautiful. Okay? Just hold it. Just hold it. Just hold it. You know, sometimes I say hold it. I want you to know that doesn't mean like, wait up now. Hold it means I'm telling you something now. I want you to just keep it in your psyche. You'll understand why I'm telling you later. Okay, so Dara, meaning beautiful. I want you to just hold that in your psyche for right now. It's a word I want you all to have. It's going to be a powerful word for you in this coming season as well. All right. I'm going to take another call, though, because we got 2 calls from the same area code. So let's see what's up. 585 area code, 585. You're on Chief Speaks.
Hi. I don't know if it's me or if it's my husband. Is it me?
Okay.
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep, I got you.
Okay. Peace.
Peace.
I just wanted to get clarification on the calling that you said that you were speaking about. I was trying to look it up and it doesn't really come up. I don't know if I got the right spelling or not. That you were speaking about earlier.
C-A-U-L.
C-A-U-L. Okay.
Yeah.
I spelled it wrong. Okay.
All right.
All right. That's why I just wanted to get some clarification. I'm new to listening. This is the first time I've ever called in, but my husband calls in all the time. But
okay.
You are very powerful, and I just appreciate the teachings and everything. So
sure, you're welcome. You're more than welcome.
So thank you.
You're welcome, sis. Take care.
Bye.
I'm ready to go bye-bye, Mom.
I'm ready to go bye-bye, Mom. You're a cute child in the back. Like, that's a nice way to say, get off the phone. It's time for us to go to the park now. It's getting late. We're losing daylight. Mother, I'm ready to go bye-bye. But anyway, I'll always love to hear the children in the back. Especially when I love to hear the children in the back. Let me reiterate that. Not in the front. Sometimes you guys, like, you wait till you getting ready to call the show, and then you put your screaming baby on your lap. What's up with that? What's up with that? You know, and just understand, like, I have my phone turned up real loud so I can hear you, because sometimes the phones are real low. So when you have those loud noises in the background, it's like, man, you know, it takes my eardrums out. But anyway, I was sharing with you earlier, Odara, right, which is beautiful. But we have a Yoruba deity, and I'm going to get to some more calls in a second. I just wanted to expand on it a little bit. I still want you to hold it in your psyche. I'm not going to tell you everything yet. I'm going to expand on it. But, and 347-945-7680, hit the number 1. That's the call in, right? I need to get it. That's what I'm going to do for 2016. I keep telling myself to make a recording of it. Like I could just press it, because I get tired of saying it and I forget sometimes. But anyway, you know my thing. I'm not a radio host. So anyway, Dada is actually one of the earlier or the older forms of Dada. Some of you may be, hopefully, some of you are familiar. Again, kind of another obscure Orisha. And Dada, a lot of times when you read some of the, depending on the region, because depending on the region that you're working with, some Orisha are female, some Orisha are male. You know, don't trip over that. It's just how that energy interacts with that particular region. So some people will tell you that Dada is a boy and is actually Yemoja's son. I've always taught that Dada is a girl. You know, all of my studies have made Dada female for me. But ultimately, and this is also an important discussion when when you just, you know, talking about the anthropomorphization of these spiritual energies. You know, I remember having a discussion years ago, and we were talking about how different societies will take these African deities and color them. They'll take the black out of them. Like, I think I was talking about the Hindu, and I was saying, yeah, you know, they always show Krishna as blue. When you look at the earlier, older forms of Krishna, he was jet black, like the jet black Buddhas. You know, so anytime you see the blue or the green Hindu deities, it most likely originally they were dark black, you know, or jet black. And they were like, yeah, you know, that's what they do, because they always, you know, they taking our stuff, and you know the discussion. You probably heard it before, like the Jesus and how you gonna be blonde hair and blue eyes and live in the desert? That doesn't make sense, you know. But I remember saying, you know, coming in just being a party poop, and I was like, yeah, that's true, but at the end of the day, none of them are human. So they don't look like any of that. Everybody just kind of like looked at me like, here he goes, like, I probably shouldn't have said anything because everybody was, high powered. But, if you think that Shango and Ogun and, Oshun have arms and legs and heads and eyeballs like you do, then you're missing it. You're really missing it. So don't trip when people make them white. Or they make them Latino, or it doesn't matter, to be honest with you, because they don't look like that anyway. And you're like, well, my God should look like me. That's pretty small-minded. That's that. You have a really distorted perception of what a deity is, to be honest with you. Especially if you understand that when you look in the mirror, you're looking at something that's a corruption of a higher form, of a higher vibrational energy. So why would you want something to look like the corruption? That's that's not nice. So anyway, we have the energy of Dada, right? And Dada was Shango's older, I always say sister, some will say older brother, but older sibling, right? And Dada handed the keys to the kingdom over to Shango. And the reason is because it's something that we say about Dada, and it's how's it go? Bayoni Koleja Sugbon or Oli Aburo Tio Koboju, right? And that means like that the one who was chosen or the one who was picked to be king is not tough enough or not powerful enough to fight, but that one has a younger brother who is. And what that basically means is that when Dada was put into power, there were regent chiefs and provincial chiefs who were always at Dada and always like kind of encroaching upon Dada's rules and regulations and land. And Dada wasn't strong enough to, do what needed to be done. So they were like, yeah, but you got this really strong and strategic and wild younger brother, Shango. Put Shango on the throne. Shango will take care of it. Step down and abdicate the throne. Abdicate the throne to Shango. So that's how Shango actually became king. But if you really read the older stories, Dada was a female. And some will say, well, the reason that she wasn't strong enough because it was a she. She wasn't strong enough to fight all these men who were encroaching upon her. So she said, I'll make my younger brother the king. Now, and she ruled through her younger brother. So he was more like a symbol more than anything, right? But that Da, right, which is kind of important, right? Da or Dada, but Da is itself means good in Yoruba, Da. All right, so you have Dada, then you have Da. So Dada would be like good almost, right? But you have Da, and then Da becomes Dara, D-A-R-A, Dara. Okay, and Dara becomes Odara, which is, remember, whenever you have the O, it means the spirit of, but more specifically, as I said in one of the YouTube videos, don't remember which one, I'm sorry, but the O is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. The O is a cipher. Even in Yoruba, you have the concept of a cipher. So O doesn't just, O represents light when they say O, but the light for them is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So if I say Osun, right? Osun or Osu, what is Su? Su is the moon. Su also relates itself to the woman's period, the menstrual cycle, right? Su also means the source. So if I say Osu, I'm not just saying the spirit of the moon, I'm saying the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the moon. Because if I to know a spirit, I have to have the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of such. Once I have the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of something, then I'm able to conjure the spirit. Okay, so knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, or Omo, Igbon, and Oye, which is what we say in Yoruba. Omo, Igbon, Oye is knowledge, wisdom, understanding. So the Omo, Igbon, Oye of a thing gives me the spiritual authority of that thing, because now I can recreate it for myself. You see, if I'm unable to recreate that cipher, that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, man, woman, child, sun, moon, earth, then I'm not able to recreate. Because what do you recreate through family? Everything. A family is a factory. Anything that you can imagine can come out of the positioning and the core essential of a family. More children, leaders, killers, poets, artists, thinkers, philosophers, physicists, psychologists, carpenters, anything can come out of that cipher when you have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of what comes next. It's very similar to the I am statement. I am. I did the show on that recently. And I am is the name of God. You break it down any way you want, but it's I am. I am that which is. Isness is God. And where is isness? Everywhere. Everything, everywhere is. You see? So this idea of, again, Dara, going to Odara. So Dara is good. It's pretty. Look at it like that. But when I have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of what is pretty, I move into the realm of beautiful. You know, there's a lot of pretty and gorgeous people on the earth. I mean, there's a lot. But there's not a lot of beautiful people. Beauty is like rare. It's very rare. Because beauty only comes from your spiritual eye. You can only perceive beauty through the spirit. You can only perceive it through the spirit, and you can only project it through the spirit. So, you know, there would be an understanding why Odara would be beauty. It would be the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of beauty, or the spirit of beauty, or the spiral of beauty. Okay? So once you put that O in front of it, it now requires a deeper level of application, experience, and scholarship. It immediately takes you to that space. So that's why you have a lot of words in Yoruba that will just have that you can say like gun or gungun, meaning herb, right? That means like herb. But then you take the Ogun, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of herbs. And so why would Ogun, his warrior and his killer, be the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of herbs? You see? Or Tala, or Ba Tala, right? Ba Tala. Ba means like the ruler, the chief, the father. And Tala means to resurrect. Ba Tala. Okay, so you have Ba, which is also connects you to the word baboon. Baboon. And baboon was sacred to Tahuti, right? But the baboon was also related to Osiris. But why was it sacred to Tahuti? And baboon or Tahuti is where you get also the word Baba, meaning father. Because it's said that if you go to Africa, when the sun rises, baboons, they go crazy. They start jumping around like at the sunrise, you know, they go crazy whenever they see the sun. So it represents the excitement that happens over knowledge. When things are exposed and revealed, this energy goes wild. So these are the holders and the keepers and the appreciators of knowledge. Well, wouldn't it be interesting again that the man or the father represents knowledge for the family? Baba, coming from baboon. So you have Obatala, which is Ba, right? That's, you breaking the word down, but you have Ba, and then you have Tala. And Tala, and a lot of times we say, well, you know, Tala is cloth, the white cloth. It's true, but Tala actually more in this form represents resurrection. The Allah or the Tala, the re-rising or the resurrecting of a thing. You see? So now, by itself, Batala, right? Batala. We have the resurrection of the Father. Cool. No problem, right? And that's why we understand that Batala or Batala connects to Osir or Osiris, who is the resurrected deity, right? So we got that. No problem. But put the O in front of it. Put the O in front of it. Now it gets deep. O Batala. Huh. The knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the resurrected fathers. Now we working with a different type of vibration. We're working with something different here, right? So it's the same thing when we're looking at the terminology for Dara or Dara, right? I know you're probably saying, well, what I need to know about beauty for? Knowledge, wisdom, understanding beauty. Just trust me. It's going to come up. Or don't trust me. It doesn't matter. But what else? You know, it's a good thing to do. I'm not telling you to do something bad. You know, I'm giving you some insights on the year's financial reading. And you're going to see where it applies. And just understand that beauty can only be perceived through the soul. Beauty can't be perceived with the five senses. What's perceived through the five senses is grotesque. It's just the face of a thing. Okay? And the face of a thing is a grotesque crystallization of the higher energy that exists inside of the thing. You know, it's like you look at Star Wars. Remember the carbon piece when they put Han Solo in the thing and they carbonized him, and he came back up and you saw Harrison Ford's face, you know, like carbonized, and that thing that what's the name? Who threw him in there? The big thing, Jabba the Hutt, right? And it looked horrible once it was carbonized. Once they took his energy, once they took Han Solo, and they put him into darkness. They put him into a body that was static. It was grotesque. So a lot of times we look at ourselves and say, oh, beautiful, beauty. And you say beauty fades. Beauty doesn't fade. Your looks fade. Your behind drops. You know, your breast drop. Fellas, your arms get small and flabby. You get moobs. Moobs. You get love handles, and, you know, that stuff fades and goes, but your beauty enhances and expands. You know, and a lot of times it expands through the maintenance of the crown. In fact, there's a term that we use for dada, alada, or no, it's alade el emotion. And alade el emotion means like this is the one who takes care of themselves. This is the one who's sharp, who keeps a crown, and they keep their crown very clean and very neat, and has good taste. Okay, so they're not just talking about being stylish, but it's really speaking about the maintenance of the crown, right? Which is the maintenance of the consciousness. It's the maintenance of the head, and this is what creates beauty. You guys know what I'm talking about. I know you do. You ever stand next to your mate, male or female, and see them talking to someone breaking something down, and like really getting into the flow where they're just like teaching and building? You know that feeling you get? You know, when you're standing in a circle with everybody else, but you're looking at them like, when we get home, you know? Because there's nothing more beautiful and more sensuous than seeing someone who's standing on the convictions of the cultivation of their own consciousness. That's what's beautiful. You know, makeup and going to the gym and nice cologne, that can make you gorgeous and pretty, but definitely not beautiful. Meditate on what that may mean. I'm going to take some more calls. I know I went off on that for a moment, but it was important. I'm going to skip around a little bit here. 909 area code. You're on Chief Speaks.
Yo, peace, Chief. Peace.
Peace, brother. How you doing?
I just had a question. I just wanted you to break down Ogun real quick, because you know you had said Goon Guru, and I went to go look something up, but
what do you want me to break down?
I was trying to get a meaning on that. Just the meaning of the Ogun energy.
Okay. Did you hear what I said about Goon?
Yeah, I was actually looking. That's why I actually wanted to.
Okay, Goon is vitality, and Goon also means herbs. All right, you got that part?
Yeah.
All right, so you don't need nothing. That's all you need from me. Now that you got that, go back and listen to what I said about the rest of the name, and you're gonna have you don't even need anything else from me. You got the rest of it.
All right.
Just remember that Goon is herbs and vitality. All right?
Okay.
All right, brother.
Peace. Thanks, Steve.
Peace. No problem. All right. Yeah, you probably said, why don't you just give him the O? Because I want him to put it together. When he puts it together, then it'll come alive. You don't really learn things. People just tell you what it is. But when you go through your own mountain, you climb it yourself, then it becomes alive in you in a different kind of way. You know, you gain more intelligence that way than someone just handing it to you like that, you know. And on another level too, you know, if you really want to get good at this stuff, as I often talk about, you got to put work in, you know, and part of that work is you got to be a good listener. you're not a good listener, forget it. Just hang it up. Go do something else, and leave this for the rest of us who know how to listen. You know, you got to be able to listen. Your listening comprehension has to be above all. You know, because most of it's like I always tell you guys, 90% of all of this spiritual work is feminine. It's feminine. So what does that mean? You're just receiving most of it. Think about when you go do a ritual, right? You don't go do a ritual because you want to talk or because you want to give. Even when you're giving because you want to get something back. But typically you'll do something because you want something to come to you. You want to receive something, whether it be information, whether it be an insight, you know, whether it be a gift, money, healing, health. But you typically, most of the rituals you do in any system are to open you up to actually receive something. That's the feminine nature of all of this. Most of this stuff is feminine. So your listening comprehension has to be, you know, bar none, it's got to be excellent, you know. So I know a lot of people, they have a little trouble with that. And, you know, I will also say this to you, just because you've been studying for a little bit, never put yourself in a place where you think that you can easily and quickly assimilate concepts. Whenever I hear people do that, they always mess it up. You know, like sometimes you hear people call in and they'll say, okay, I was listening and basically what you're saying is this. Well, everything I'm saying to you right now is basic. So if you say basically what you're saying is this, that means I already know you don't know what I'm talking about. Because I already made it basic. So that means you already started perverting it. You know, so and especially when you diminish something, when you immediately make it small and try to relate it to something that you're currently doing or you've currently done or whatever. As soon as you try to make it small like that, you're not listening. And people get really offended when you tell them to listen. Or you say, hey, you're not listening to me. All right, go ahead then. Go ahead. Say what you want to say. You know, they get into that type of thing. You know, but I'm telling you, man, if you can't listen, you're not going to get any of this. And I'm not speaking about the brother. I'm actually just because he was listening, you know. But well, somewhat, because he started looking up stuff. So no, he wasn't really listening. But he'll get it. He can go back to archives and listen. But I'm just saying in general. I wasn't necessarily speaking about him. You know, that's why I didn't give him the whole answer, because I gave him enough that he needed to get a deeper answer for himself. You see, that's why that O, no one can give you the O. When we say the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of something, I can't give you that. All these shows I do, everyone, you know, calls in, and for the most part, they enjoy them. I mean, sometimes you get the occasional whack job that wants to come in and ask a slick question or try to divert me from the actual. Yeah, Blog Talk is in rare form today. I tell you, boy. Blog Talk is showing me no love. So excuse me, we gotta do this call in again, and you get to hear this loud Blog Talk ring. All right.
Start your show now.
Yes.
Press 1.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
Yeah, Blog Talk keeps cutting us off. You know, I think we're getting cut off so much though because it's the holiday season, and probably a lot of people are doing their Christmas shows. So, you know, so now Blog Talk is inundated or something like that. I don't know, but the YouTube. We get cut off. Okay, so let's fix that. Anyway, so hopefully our YouTube broadcast is still live and we didn't get cut off. I think we did for a moment. I had to get up and fix something. Always something. But this is small stuff. You know, even like when we had these little tech issues, you know, I really don't trip. You never hear me going off or anything like, not that I would anyway. It's not my personality, but because you're still able to do amazing things, you know, and get a lot of information out in a relatively easy way. So even if Blog Talk cuts you off, a YouTube video drops or whatever, it's really not that big a deal. To me, it's not really that big a deal because, again, of the amount of things that you're actually able to do with the technology and the amount of people who are able to be reached. It's awesome. All right, so I'm going to take another call. I know this is Brother Akil. I know the 718. Peace, brother. You want Chief speak?
Peace, Chief. Peace.
How's everything going?
Hello?
Yes, I'm here, but can you hear me?
Good.
Oh, good, good. It's good to hear. It's good to hear. What's going on?
Nothing much. I was just listening to what you were just explaining about Dada and Shango. And I was just thinking how I gained a deeper understanding about that by going into the whole Haile Selassie story, how he actually came into power. So it's just understanding how some of the things that you say, I don't, me personally, I don't know if anybody else has this same thing going on with them. I may not understand it the first time, even though I think I understand it. I definitely don't. And then when I go, you know, deeper and I have that information, you know, in my storehouse, I'm able to tap into it and see how it relates. So through, you know, we say through the Emperor of Ethiopia and how he got into power, I was able to better understand Shango and how it said that he is the most strategic warrior and a king and what that really means.
Right.
So I was able to gain that in that form. So it was just having an understanding of that and really building that that principle in myself to cross-reference to see how things are related, or how the stories connect.
Right. Well, that's what you're supposed to. I mean, that's why when the brother called in just now and said, "Could you break down Ogun?" I gave him part of it because I want him to connect the rest himself. You know, associations is what all of this is about, and the more associations you create, the more you'll see that how the mythology is actually still going. It hasn't ended. You know, you'll read a story about Shango and you think, okay, that's what happened, without realizing that this is a fractal that's still reverberating throughout the cosmos. So it's still happening. Like Obatala is still coming down on the chain and dropping the sand, and the palm tree is growing out of Ile Ife. Like that process is still occurring. You know, it's just occurring in different ways. So, you know, you're looking at it properly. You know, those associations are how you're supposed to come at it. That's how it sinks in. That's how it soaks into the head anyway. So that's good stuff. You know, it's definitely
right,
good stuff.
The story of how he got into power is exactly the same as the Shango story. Like it's not changed any. The empress at the time was Empress Zagditu, and she was the first empress after many years. So we're talking Queen of Sheba was the first empress of Ethiopia, and now she's the second. So she's the first they've had in a while. The Rasses and the princes, the nobility didn't respect that because they thought she was too soft, or they thought they didn't like the way that she was leading. And strategically, Haile Selassie, who was the regent, because she couldn't rule without a man second in command to begin with, he got the title of king right off the bat before she died. So he didn't get emperor right away, but he got king before she died, just because they didn't like the way that she was doing things. They thought she was too soft. So I was just thinking how interesting that is, that, you know, and this wasn't, you know, hundreds of years ago. This was just in the
It's
1920s, 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
This was right around the corner ago.
Right.
So I definitely understand and vibe with that. And again, every time I call in, I definitely want to say thank you for what you do, because week after week, it's seeming like my wife is getting more involved, and she's, I'm gaining that credibility that you talked about with her. Because I won't front to say that I had it before.
Right.
I wasn't thinking about building it.
Right.
And it was just like, I do what I do, man. Whatever.
Right.
Either you get down or you lay down. Whatever happens, happens.
Right.
That was my mentality. But now that I'm focusing on those things, and not just being honest and then lying when I feel like it's gonna hurt her or whatever, but just being brutally honest from the jump. Like, hey, this is what happened, and I'm not compromising my manhood to say that I'm gonna lie to you about X, Y, Z.
Sure.
This is what I want. This is what happened. This is all of these things. Do you want to work this out, or what do you want to do? And letting her know that it is my preference that we work these things out. And it was just nice seeing how she's getting caught up in the same things as me, and ready to walk down that same path. And it's interesting. It's real interesting.
Well, you seeing that's another mythology. I mean, any mythology where you see there's a leader of light and water follows electricity, because water is attracted to electricity. Any story where you read anything like that is what you just described right there. When electricity is directed, the water will follow. So all of this stuff is very basic and primal when you really get into it. Especially when it comes to our mating, we really overcomplicate things. And a lot of times we overcomplicate things because of what we see on TV, and different things that are said. We think that that's how our relationship is supposed to be. But if you take it back down to just the primal elements, like you said, well, now I'm directed. I got my credibility because I'm preaching it, I'm walking it, I'm living it, and I'm making it clear that I'm a moving train. Now you can get on the train, or you cannot get on the train, but the train is still going to move. That's what that feminine energy. Females don't want to be needed by you. When they feel like that you need them for their approval, or you need them for their cooperation or acquiescence, they get turned off. They want to be wanted and desired by you, but they don't want to be needed. Whereas as men, the desire, we don't need to lay on the bed with a rose on our mouth and be like, do you want me? We don't really care so much about that. We want to feel needed though. We want to know that, listen, right, you need me to do, and this society has created a insidious concept around that level of healthy codependency. So, what you're doing is it's just ancient mythology, man, replaying itself right in your own household. And it's beautiful that your son is able to witness that, because now that, like you said, well, I didn't have the credibility before, but now the next time around when your son reproduces, he's going to start with the credibility. He may not have some other things. Right. He'll make some new screw ups, but he won't have that one. Because he's got the modeling, and we just keep taking it to another level, to another level, to another level, till we all get back home. But yeah, give thanks. Thank you for the call, brother. I appreciate that, and you're more than welcome. All right.
Oh, thank you.
All right, brother.
Appreciate it.
Anytime. Yeah. See, family, that's the proving ground. I used to always tell people that. Years ago, I'd say, listen, man, especially the men would come to me and, they would always say, how do you keep peace in your home? I've been in your house and seen your arrangement and your format, and how is it that you keep peace? And people are not at each other's throats. And, the thing is, you got to respect the deity in each person. You got to respect where they're at, but you got to also sometimes just rely and fall back on those basic primal instincts, because from a basic and primal level, we know what to do. Like I said, but a lot of times we're perverted by media. Like I was watching, we were playing this movie yesterday in the house, Lucy, You guys are familiar with it. I watched it. One of the callers actually called in and spoke about it a bunch of months ago, and I hadn't seen it at the time. And I said, I'm gonna check it out. I heard about it, but like I said, I'm always late with the movies. So I watched it a few months back. Lucy with Scarlett Johansson. I didn't do the breakdown on it because I was like, there's a lot in it, but there's a lot wrong in it. So I was like, I don't even know, you ready to hear this, but even that whole 10%, we only use 10% of our brain theory, that's not actually accurate. That's not even true. So some of these things is just like, I don't even feel like talking about that. But there was a scene in the movie where some of you may be familiar. Well, basically she's tied up in the beginning. She's held captive in this like room. And there's a guy, this is like all the movies, right? This is a thing they always do in movies. That I always say, this doesn't make any sense. Even as a man, this is stupid. You ever notice in the movies that there'll be a woman who's tied up and captive, and to get free, she'll flirt with the person who, she'll flirt with a captor. Like, yeah, I'm tied up. You're getting ready to kill me. I'm dirty. I'm filthy. But hey, let's do it. I want to do you, and so there's a scene like that where she's just sitting in the chair and she spreads her legs, right? She's got on these jeans. She's got on regular pants. It's not like she had on a skirt or anything, but she spreads her legs, and the guy who had it tied up comes over to her like, yeah, we're going to get ready to do it. And I'm looking at this and I said, this is why so many of our homes in this country are destroyed. And that was the one scene I'm saying, because women look at this and they think that men are that sexualized that they can just throw a flirtation out or spread their legs or whatever, and then a man immediately, oh yeah, they're gonna jump on it. And then of course we lose all reasoning because you licked your lips, or you winked, or you spread your legs, or you bent over in front of us. We now lose all reasoning, and that's all we can think about. If I'm doing a job and I have somebody held hostage and I'm gonna make $500,000, $250,000, heck, if I'm gonna make $5,000 on this job, heck, if I'm gonna make $100, I don't care how much you spread your legs. I got a job to do, and and it's an easy job. You're already tied up. I don't really have much to do. But no, I'm going to ruin it. I'm going to go over there and take my pants off. And then miraculously, somehow you broke your chains or the rope, whatever we had you tied up with. You're going to hit me once and I'm going to get knocked out. And I'm going to stay knocked out until you have time to leave the room or change into my clothes or something stupid like that they show. But again, it's a lot of these like really backwards ideas of the over-sexualization of men, whether it be white or black men, that creates a lot of confusion within relationships. People think that they know that you want and they really don't, and it's not about that. It's really about your beauty. It's not about your gorgeousness. It's about your beauty that makes you amazing and that makes you unique. That's what makes you unique. There's something about the mountain energy that I wanted to share with you all too. I was speaking to someone recently about a fish, and she was sharing that she ate this mudfish once. Oh no, she was watching a show. Can't remember the name of the show, but this guy travels all around and he eats different food from around the world. And he went, I can't remember the name of the guy. I can't remember the name of the show. I'm sorry. I'm not into the new TV. Everything I watch is usually a little behind, because I watch it online after the episodes come out. I don't like how TV strings you along. I don't like being a sucker like that. So like if something comes out like Walking Dead or something, like I watched a whole season of The Walking Dead in a day. I don't like to be strung along. Don't give me one episode and then 7 days. I gotta wait another 7 days for another episode. You're gonna live it. I don't like that feeling. Give it to me now. I want it now, and I want it for free. I'm going online to download the whole season. So anyway, so she was sharing about that, about the mudfish. And there's something very significant there when we're talking about this energy of the hunter and the exalted lion and the mountain and Oke being the rock face or the stone holder of Obatala, right? So okay is like the human representation, really, not the human, I'm sorry, the earthly representation of Obatala. And I've said it before, and people get really upset because they don't study. And I tell you, Obatala is not an Orisha, right? And then people say, how do you, what do you know? I've always learned and been taught that Obatala was an Orisha. Okay. I've always been taught that you're supposed to drink 2 glasses of milk every day, you know, or 3 glasses or whatever it is, you know, but obviously that will kill you, you know. So there's a lot of things sometimes that we're taught that are just nonsensical or are just not studied. So one of the interesting things about this Obatala vibration, okay, being more the earthly representation, being the actual stone, and related to that mudfish, right? So we have the mudfish and Yoruba culture. A lot of guys, you know, we use that mudfish as offerings for different things, right? And we call it, you know, fish is eja, in Yoruba, EJA, like Yemoja. That's why when you say Yemenya, you leave out the fact that she's the fish aspect. So Eja Aro, and Eja Aro, that is the mudfish, right? And you know, you find those a lot in West Africa. And the Eja Aro, actually, a lot of people don't know that's actually an electric fish. Very interesting, right? So you start to understand the connections with Shango and Obatala, because sometimes we feed it to either one. But the Eja Aro can actually deliver an electrical shock up to 400 volts. 400 volts. Some have even been reported even higher than that, but on average 400 volts. Now you think about that for a second. When you consider that your house, if you're in the US, most likely, you know, your house runs on 120 volts, 120 AC volt. Okay, if you put in like, and I say most likely because if you install like a stronger system, you let's say you put like you have a central AC, the AC will run on a 240 volt line. That's why the plug looks different and everything. So you got the 240 volt. Sometimes you use 230 volt, but on average, like your computer, your laptop, whatever, that's plugging into a 120 volt receptacle, and it's still not putting out 120 volts. Nowhere near that, but that's the capacity of that line. So now you got this fish that can give you an electric shock up to 400 and change. You think about that for a second. It's a fish that lives in the mud, right? And a lot of times in the Yoruba system, we say that this fish is the eshe of Obatala, and the eshe means your feet or your legs, right? So the ejiaro is the legs of Obatala, or the part of Obatala that actually touches the earth. Because remember, Obatala doesn't touch the earth. That's why Obatala people are airheads. They are. I know people may feel some way about it. If you talk to Obatala people, they're never like, this is never there, really. They're never concerned with what's going on. And, you know, they're just like in the cosmos all the time because they don't really touch the earth. And the reason they don't really touch the earth is because it is said that Obatala comes with so much power. He comes with so much force and so much strength that if his feet were to touch the earth, he would cause humongous harm to the earth. You know, he would split it open. It's almost like when lightning strikes. Okay, so what happens is this fish is used as a transference of spiritual power into the earth. Okay, it's like, again, a step down conductor. And interesting enough, you had the same fish and idea in ancient Kemet. Okay, and anytime you have the water, just know that, especially water as it relates to Obatala, you're dealing with like the ability of Obatala to bridge the human and the spiritual spaces together. Okay, that's what that fish represents. It's a fish, but it lives in the mud. So you're bridging, you know, water and earth. And water and earth is the bridging of spiritual consciousness with human consciousness, or the connecting of spiritual consciousness with human consciousness. Obatala, again, representing the force and the vibration of omnipresence. Okay, so I thought about that just speaking to Akil just now, and him sharing him gaining greater credibility because of what he's doing. And how he said, well, I just say this is what I'm doing, this is what it is. And sometimes even as men, we have to be careful with that because, and he knows by now, he's been married long enough, even though he's a young brother, but he's been in it for a while. You know how much of that power to deliver, how much sun to shine without burning up your family. You got to know when to give it and when to pull back, but it doesn't mean that you have to dilute your message. You may just give half of it. I'm going to say half of it this month, the other half next month. But you don't have to dilute anything. But like I said, the interesting vibration, again, when we speak about certain energies that we immediately say, oh, I got that, I know that. No, you don't, because that energy has not and cannot reveal its fullness to you. Obatala cannot reveal its fullness to you because you would die. So you get these step down relationships with like, okay. You get a step down relationship with the Ejaro, the mudfish. Okay. And that power, that consciousness is transferred through those energies. So there's the gateway experience. So just like okay represents the stone of the mountain or the face of the mountain, it's not the actual mountain. Think about how strong and powerful a mountain is, right? Because remember, what's in the spiritual core and nature of something comes out in its physical and human form. So if we look at like a well, or we look at a shark, or, we look at a gorilla, or we look at a mountain or an elephant, these are very strong spiritual beings. You couldn't tap into the spirit of those particular beings. You see, when you even look at the connection of a lot of different people, a lot of different energies in terms of their totems. You ever notice that most of the time your totem is something small? Hawk, coyote, fox, beaver, eagle. You ever notice that? You might get a bear totem. But if you get a bear totem, you're usually some type of chief or ruler. And even the bear has to hibernate from itself. Even the bear goes into the womb to sleep because we just can't have that much power on the earth all the time. There's an ebb and flow of things. There's an ebb and flow of power, you see. So, that exaltation that we speak about in this coming season of the hunter, the exaltation and the going up on the mountains is not just for you to get away from the filth and the dead energy of the valley. It's also to protect the valley from you. Sometimes you're just too much. Can I sit down and have this pork chop without you explaining to me all of the bacteria and the worms and the parasites that are in it? Can I just wish you Merry Christmas without hearing about the wickedness of this system and consumerism and blah, blah, blah? Can I wish you a Happy New Year without you telling me that this isn't even a real calendar? Because why would December be the 12th month and Desa means 10? That doesn't even make sense. Does that make sense to you? Sometimes you are just too much for the valley and you need to go up into the mountains where the other lions are. And the lions need to congregate with each other and get it out there. Get your warrior energy. That's why the rams go up there and do what? They butt heads. They butt heads. And I'm going to tell you, they're strong. I fought a ram before. Literally. I fought a ram. I fought two of them, actually. But I fought a big ram once. Ram butted me, and I can think of anything else to do but to punch it. Long story that I won't say over the air, but I might get those animal rights people knocking on my door. But ram is a strong animal. They get their frustrations out there in the mountain and they create thunder. That's why I said that, Shango is symbolized by the ram, but it is said that Shango's voice and laughter is wider and larger than thunder. He's humongous. But the thunder is the quick judgment. The lightning is the quick judgment. He judges by fire. You see, he judges quickly by fire. So the hunter has to exalt and go beyond the petty humanistic affairs and the petty humanistic ordeals, getting away from your family silliness, getting away from your friends silliness, so that you can express the fullness of your art, because the valley is too small for you. You can't do it there. One of the reasons sometimes people say, well, why do you mix systems like that? Because I've never met a system that was big enough for me. one place on the planet. It's not. You listen to my earlier shows. I'll tell you when everybody was emailing in with this and with. I have no allegiance to any religion or region. None. I have no loyalty to any of them. Okay, so don't try to localize me to Nigeria. Don't try to localize me to Kemet. Don't try to localize me to South. It's not going to work. We're dealing with a cosmic vibration. It goes beyond the planet. And for those of you who have the understanding and the ears to hear for where we're going into for this next year, you're going to have to go into the mountains. You have to go high or go deep into the water and blend that spiritual consciousness so that way you can be the fullness and the humongous juggernaut of a person that you came here to be. And if you're not ready and willing to be the juggernaut, then you might as well stop. Because this isn't that fun. There's more fun things to do. You know, it's like Dr. Malachi York said once. I heard he was in a speech and he said, you know, I have more fun doing music than doing this. You know, so if you're not going to go all in, you know, because a hunter goes out into the woods to get his prey. He doesn't sit in his window in his living room shooting arrows. And understand that arrow represents a full expression of force. When you pull back, you're pulling back from the back, from the spine, and you release. So it's a full propulsion of your energy and force traveling over space and time. And all you hear is the whistle. If any of you have ever had the wonderful pleasure of engaging in archery, you know what I'm talking about. You know that whistle you hear when you shoot, you know, and that whistle represents the hawk scream. Okay, so again, it's that exaltation of the animals that exalt high, you know, like how the hawk shrieks and everybody listens. When that arrow flies and you hear that whistle, it's the same thing as a hawk shriek. And what it's basically doing is it's breaking the bonds of your current of the current entrapment. It's breaking those bonds. That's why you have the hunter or Chosi. He represents astral travel and telepathy, because he travels over great distance and bringing his force and vigor over great distances. He doesn't need to be in the mix to be effective. You no longer need to be in the classroom to change the educational system. You no longer need to be in that hospital walking the floor anymore to help people. You can go into the mountains and help them even more by seeing the holistic condition that they're currently enduring, instead of just sitting and having a close-eyed view. That's Erinle, going underwater to meditate and seeing the conscious messages before they reach the surface and manipulating the conscious messages before they reach the surface. That's been our Chief Speaks. I want to thank you all for listening. I'm Chief Yuya. I want to thank everyone who called in. I know we still got some other callers on the air. But yeah, we're going to close out. All right. And I look forward to our next Chief Speaks, and look forward to some changes that are coming very soon with the whole enlightenment and transformation experience and just the whole ANU experience. You know, it's some very good things coming forth. And as you all call me and thank me, listen, thank you. Thank you, because it's an honor to be honored. It really is. It's not so much of a selfless act. I'm not as selfless as you might think I am. You know, when you are learning and you're growing, and I say this all the time, you don't believe me, but I'm telling you, when you're learning and you're growing, your ancestors come to me and they help me out. They do things for me. You know, horrible things that are supposed to happen sometimes don't happen to me. I've been in some situations in life, I'm telling you. And it's because of the amount of help. I've always helped. I've always been like how I am now, even since I was a little boy. And things that were supposed to happen, just they don't happen. I mean, I go through it, you know. Sometimes I go through the feelings of it, or I'm right there. But it doesn't occur to me. You know, I was with a friend recently, speaking on things supposed to happen, and we were just recanting a situation that happened to us many years ago in a town and in a state that I won't name. And it was late night. He used to drive a Sterling. You guys may not remember that car, but they don't even make them anymore. But it was a Sterling, and he had this green Sterling. We loved that car. We used to go everywhere in that car. And I remember we were in the Sterling one night, and we were in this neighborhood. It was like a housing complex, we'll say. One of those one way in, one way out complexes. Somewhere we had no business being, doing things we had no business doing. And it was real late, and I was tired. And I remember he had his window open, and it was hot in the car. And I was like, "Yo, man, I need to, lay back for a minute. I'm starting to hallucinate." You get so tired, you start hallucinating. And I leaned my chair back. I was in the passenger seat, and I leaned my chair back. And as soon as I leaned split second, as soon as I leaned my chair back to lay back, 2 bullets come flying through the driver's window and hit the seatbelt buckle on the side post on the passenger door. As soon as I put my chair back. So if I would have just waited for a minute, or maybe changed the radio or something, my face would have been blown off. Okay. And the way I look at it, and I could sit here, we could do 10 hours of stories of my near-death experiences. I've had a lot of them. But the way I look at it is I did die. My face did get blown off. And I probably went to, and see, all of this stuff happens, and it's not time like you and I think of it. And I was allowed to come back and do it again. So when I was going, somebody's ancestors who I had helped said, "Oh, wait a minute, is there any way we could work this out?" Because he's not a bad guy. He helps out a lot, the community. And said, "All right, we'll send him back down. So we'll have him, we'll make him real sleepy and have him put his seat back, but he's gonna have to see those bullets. He's gonna have to see that, some things need to change." You see. So like I said, it's an honor for me when I'm able to do these things, because I'm connecting. The awareness of God. You talk about God so much. I'm going to say this quickly and I'm going to go. How do we become self-aware? A lot of times we say, well, we meditate, we go into the higher realms, this and that. You can't do that for self-awareness. It doesn't work. That's not how you become self-aware. If a deity or a force dispersed itself and broke itself into many pieces, and when it broke itself into many pieces, those many pieces became what we know to be as humans, then how would that deity become aware of itself again? It would have to reconnect on a lateral level to those other humans in order for it to see the wholeness of what it is. Going up singularly into the higher realms by yourself still doesn't actually tell you what you are. It's when you connect with other people that you make the lateral connections. Again, just picture somebody taking a bunch of, ice cream sprinkles, dropping them from the sky, right? You got one big ball of
90 seconds.
90 seconds. So I'm gonna knock this self-awareness out in less than 90 seconds. You got one big ball of sprinkle, you break it up, you sprinkle it up, right? It now becomes sprinkles. You drop it into the atmosphere. And every piece of sprinkle disperses throughout the planet and becomes its own culture, becomes its own ethnic group, becomes its own genetic grouping, right? But all of these sprinkles together are you. They're that one deity, okay? The unified field theory in less than 60 seconds is coming, all right? So the only way that it can become aware of itself again as a full deity is for each of those sprinkles to connect to one another across that human plane. And then when they connect, they say, wait a minute, you're me, and 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 you're me. And together we make God. That's why God is everywhere. So it's an honor when I get to talk to you all. It really is. Because I get to become more aware of myself. Thank you for listening. This is Chief Yuya signing out on Chief Speaks for 2015. I'll see you all
10 seconds
in the next season. All right. Until such time, Hotep Pu, Akwaba, Uhuru Sasa, Ankh Uja Seneb, Odabo, and power and strength to you all. Peace.